Hey guys, my name is Stephanie Schwartz. I'm going to be presenting on Chapter 14, Communications in the Promotional Mix. How do we get there? So the question I chose is question number 3. It says, this chapter emphasizes the importance of keeping promotional messages simple. Review hospitality and travel promotions either at the local or national level. Find and describe at least 5 examples of promotions that use simple communications and 5 examples of ones you feel are overly complicated. How could each of the latter messages be improved to communicate more effectively? So I'm going to start with looking at promotion and communications, specifically the promotional mix, which is an element of the marketing mix, which entails advertising, personal selling, sales promotion, merchandising, public relations, and publicity. So advertising is going to be a paid-for message that is put out there by the company itself. It's not a third party. It's a message that's put out there by the company itself, and the goal is normally to make a sale. Sometimes it's just to put out a positive image, but normally it's to make a sale. Second is sales promotion. So that's going to be a short-term discount opportunity for a customer. That's going to be a coupon, contest, things like that. Third one is personal selling. So that's either face-to-face or over the phone communication between a salesperson and a prospective customer. So the salesperson is going to have a really short window that they're going to want to present the company accurately and positively in that time because they want to make a sale. Third or fourth is going to be merchandising. That's in-house displays, posters, and products available for purchase. The main benefit of merchandising is that it reinforces what a customer may have already come in contact with as far as that company's promotional content. It's just going to reinforce what they've already seen. And then lastly is public relations and publicity. So this is similar to an advertisement, the main difference being that it's not the company itself putting it out there. It's not paid for by the company. It's an endorsement by a third party other than the company at hand. And this type of promotion seems to be more positively received by customers because it's seen as less biased and more credible. So that wraps up promotional mix. So next is the communication process. So this is going to be a 9-step process that every promotional activity is going to go through in efforts of getting the message across. So it's going to start with the source, which is either the person or organization that is seeking to transmit information to the customer. Next is going to be the step of encoding, and this is the art of translating information into an arrangement that's going to send a message. So that involves words, pictures, colors, movements, body language. All of it works together in order to effectively portray a message. Then we have the message itself. This is what the source wants to communicate through their efforts and hopes that they're successful in doing. We have the medium, which is the channel of communication that it's going to go through, face-to-face, media, internet, newspaper. All of these are methods used. Then we have the important step of decoding, which is when a customer is coming in contact with the message and they're actually taking the time to interpret it in a way that's meaningful to them. This doesn't happen within every message that's being sent out. Sometimes we don't get there, but if the message is enticing enough, if the encoding is enticing enough, the customer is going to decode that information. We talked a lot about that when we talked in Chapter 4 about perception and perceptual processes like perceptual screens and filters, biases, selective retention, and closure. And those are 4 steps that marketing managers really need to be aware of when they're looking at their target markets and what's going to reach them. So just to wrap up the communication process, we then have noise, which is any distraction, anything that gets in the way of the message that the customer is coming in contact with, anything that's extra, so other ads, competition, things like that. Then we have the receiver, which is someone who actually notices the source's message. And then we have response. So the receiver is then going to respond to the message itself, either by calling a phone number on an ad, going to the website, or just remembering it, making a mental note of it. Finally, we have feedback, which is when the receiver goes as far as to communicate back to the original source. And this is when we find out if the message was successful and if it's going to end in a sale or not. So that wraps up the communication process. And then just heading back to my question, it's emphasizing keeping messages simple. So why keep the message simple? I found an acronym, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, called KISS. KISS stands for Keep It Simple Stupid. So this is actually a term coined by the Navy in the 1960s. It wasn't originally meant as a marketing message, but I think it applies here. It says that simplicity should be a key goal in design and unnecessary complexity should be avoided. So yeah, it's just all about keeping it simple. Systems tend to run better when they're kept simple rather than made more complicated. I also found an article by Business to Community, which kind of supports this theory, supports this idea. So number one is simplicity rules. It's just about breaking down information as far as marketing promotional messages, breaking down information that's digestible and easily understood, and then it has a better chance of being impactful. Number two is editing with a chainsaw, which just means cutting out all the excessive bits, not trying to be overly wordy and clever, but just being clear and simple. And then number three is differentiate, which just means the message is able to shift to meet the audience where they're at, and it's based upon the needs of each specific market. So all of that kind of supports what our book says about keeping it simple. So I have some examples here of promotions that I view as pretty simple. The first one I have here is for ArizonaGuide.com, and it's got this beautiful picture of this lake and this guy jumping off, and it says, "Your journey starts here. It starts with a leap. Let yourself go." I like this ad because it is very simple. It definitely touches on Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, which is self-actualization. The person here is on a journey of self-discovery and exploration and evaluation of self. So I do like this ad. It stands out to me above other ads, and I like the colors a lot too. Anything I would change, maybe add a location for where this is, because if I'm seeking out this experience, I'm going to want to know exactly where it is. The next one I have over is an ad for visitmontana.com, and it reads, "There's nothing here, nothing but a landscape so big and wide and rugged that it stretches your soul. Nothing but the corner store where the sign reads, 'If we don't have it, you don't need it.' And nothing but a million stars overhead to remind you that no one should settle for a hotel with a mere 5. All this nothing leaves more room for the unexpected to happen. Montana, you just never know." And then it ends with a simple visitmontana.com. So I really like this ad. It's very simple. It paints this lovely picture. It gives you this picture in your head of an experience that you might have, and I really think that's all that's needed in order to entice a customer to then respond and visit montana.com. So next I have an ad for New York City. It's actually travelalphas.com, and it says the top 10 underrated things to do in New York City. I like what it's going for here because it's very simple. I think a lot of people are seeking out that kind of unique experience when traveling, especially going somewhere like New York where you have the usual tourist activities people usually take part in. The one thing I would change about this is maybe pick a different photo, because this is pretty standard as far as photos that I see of New York. I don't know that this would necessarily stand out to me if I happened to see it if I was on internet one day. So maybe I would pick a photo that reflects one of the underrated things that they're advertising here. Next one over I have is an advertisement for Hanalei Colony Resort. So it's got this pretty standard snorkeling photo. It talks about the North Shore of Kauai. It's a resort that's miles away from the normal resort experience. So again, it's reaching out to a customer who wants a bit of a unique experience. One that's not your run-of-the-mill experience when it comes to resorts. One thing I would change is probably, I would probably add an element from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, maybe touching on safety and security, because I think a lot of families that are seeking out that resort experience still want the safety and security, even if they're far away, far removed from the other resorts. And I would also probably choose a different picture because this one is pretty standard. It's not really unique, not necessarily eye-catching. It's beautiful, but not necessarily eye-catching. Last one I have is an article from National Geographic on the 25 happiest cities in the United States, and it names Boulder, Colorado as number 1. So this is great publicity for Boulder. It's not an ad put out by the city of Boulder. It's publicity. It's free of charge for the city of Boulder, and it's positive. So this is great because it's from a very reputable source. And as I said before, customers are going to tend to see this as less biased and more credible because it's not the city itself putting out the ad. It's another source. And National Geographic, of course, is a very reputable source. So the author of this chose to focus on the 300 miles of dedicated bikeways that are had in Boulder. One thing I might change is the photo because I don't really see a reflection of that sentence in this photo. This definitely is going to reach a niche traveler, so that's great publicity for that type of traveler. It shows the lack of control that's had in publicity because the city of Boulder might not have chosen to focus on that. It might not be what you or I would think of to value when we think of Boulder, but it's what this author chose to value, and it is going to reach a niche market in that way. So on to overly complicated promotion. So the first one I have here is for Crescent Moon Winery and Avoya Travel. There's a lot going on in this photo. It leads with Crescent Moon is going cruising. It also has a lot of info on nightly rates, the name of the ship, amenities. So for me, it just has too much going on. There's no single focal point that's drawing me in. There's just too much there. If I came across this ad, I would probably just filter it out and not even look further. I'd say, oh, that's a pretty picture of a ship and the ocean, and probably just move on and not further pursue it. Next one I had over is a complicated process. It's a contest for a free 3-night stay at a Vegas hotel from JLux Travel. The process of entering this contest, in my opinion, is overly complicated. We have an instance where you're supposed to like the post on Instagram, follow the page on Instagram, head over to Facebook, like and follow that Facebook page, comment on that Facebook page with 2 friends, and a destination you'd like to visit, and then head back over to Instagram, comment with 2 friends, and a destination you'd like to visit. Too much noise, I think, would get in the way in pursuing this type of advertisement, this type of promotion. Once I got to Facebook, I'd probably get distracted by other things. Definitely on Instagram would probably get distracted by different things just in the process of applying. So to simplify this ad, I would probably make it a simpler process, maybe a like and a comment on this one page, and that's it, just to reduce some of that noise. Next one I have over is an ad for New York State. It leads with, "You'll love every mile of your New York State vacation." I think this ad has a lot of noise in and of itself. It's really hard to find a focal point. There's really no target market here. It's kind of trying to target everything New York has to offer, which as a result doesn't really target anything. I can't even really tell who this ad is for. So to simplify this ad, I would definitely, again, choose a couple focal points and not try to target everyone, but to pick that target market and really try to focus in on that and reduce some of its own noise. Next one over I have is for Days Inn Suites. It leads with a $49.50 nightly rate, and then it names some of the amenities that come with that. The main change I would make in this ad is probably not focusing on that cheap nightly rate and amenities, but rather the fact that it's the newest hotel in town, which it does say, but it's a lot smaller up at the top there, because that would then add value to your stay. It's not just a cheap nightly rate, but you're actually getting a value for your money and staying there, and that's what's going to separate it from other competition similar to nightly rates like this and amenities like this. Last one I have is an ad for Hawaiian Airlines. Again, this is pretty confusing to me, a bit overcomplicated because you've got Hawaiian Airlines and you've got photos of Las Vegas, Hollywood, looks like Miami. Hard to figure out who the target market is here, and hard to see really what the ad is all about. I would definitely simplify this, make a main point, focus on a target market. Yeah, and final thoughts on these are just keep it simple. Ads that have simple messages are more enticing. Focus on your target market. You can't please everyone all the time. And that's pretty much it. Here are my resources. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation and maybe learned something, and I hope you guys have a good day.